why morning routines might be failing in midlife and what actually might work for you. So you hear morning routine, 5 a.m. club everywhere. It's a popular thing. I mean, I have a pretty rock solid morning routine. I hope you do as well. But I just want to dive into this whole idea of this controlling, sort of locked in idea of a morning routine that might actually, I don't know, maybe look a little masculine. Maybe it just doesn't suit the woman in midlife anymore. And the other issue with this, of course, is that, you know, this idea of like, if you can't lock yourself into this like solid morning routine, then you're doing something wrong or you're failing, which we definitely don't want. You know, you'll hear maybe male podcasters or self-development gurus, whatever. Not that that is wrong, but it just doesn't suit for women in midlife who are going through menopause, who might be having disrupted sleep. Schedules are different, all of that. So I want to talk you through what I mean by it not working for you and what might work for you, what I do personally, and what I help my clients do as well. So a lot of morning routines sort of assume that like you've had a great sleep, right? And so you're okay with an alarm going off, for example, because you've had a 7 to 8 hour sleep. The other assumption is that, you know, you feel the same every day, right? You don't have fluctuating hormones up and down. It also might assume that there isn't anything that hijacks your morning. And a lot of these morning routines also assume that you have, you know, an hour and a half maybe to do this series of things. And then if you don't have that time, well, gosh darn it, you should just get up earlier. That's just not the case for midlife, right? Because oftentimes our sleep is interrupted. Oftentimes our mornings are hijacked, and oftentimes we don't have that amount of time to spend on a routine in the morning. So when a morning routine requires all these steps like journaling, meditation, deep breathing, some form of movement or exercise, some form of, you know, food or drink or whatever. And if one of those things gets interrupted or falls apart, then the whole thing might fall apart. And then we feel like we're doing it wrong and we're not motivated, we're not disciplined. So that's a design problem, not a discipline problem. So what I want you to do is stop building morning routines and build morning anchors. What do I mean? A routine might look like do these five habits or these 5 things in sequential order every single morning. That's a routine. An anchor says, no matter what happens, this one thing is the most important thing in my morning. So one example that something that I do that I call no input before orientation anchor. So this means that there is at least one thing that I do in my morning before I do anything else, before I check emails, before I check social media, before I even really talk to anybody. I anchor in my faith. I anchor in a study of the Bible. Right now I'm doing the Bible Recap 365, which is awesome, by the way. So that's the thing that I anchor to. And I have my Bible and my notebook ready beside my bed. So if I get up, and I get up, by the way, when my body wants to get up. If my husband's still sleeping, I can still grab my Bible. I can go out of our bedroom and I can do the work on the couch or in the kitchen or whatever. But that is the one anchor that regardless of how much time I have or when I got up or anything like that, so that's the one anchor is faith. And I truly believe that God wants us to anchor to Him before we let our energy and our brain and our soul even enter the outside world. So the second example would be the body first anchor. And so what I mean by that is body first, okay? So you've woken up from, you know, hopefully a restful 6 to 8 hours of sleep. You need to hydrate your body and you need to move your body. Now, I'm not suggesting that you have to square away an hour-long workout as part of your morning routine. I don't. It's not part of my morning routine because I can't control that. It's too much time. We need something to anchor to. And what you anchor to is this body first idea. So body first, as I said, is hydration, and it's moving your body in a way that's going to be friendly to your nervous system, that's going to wake you up, get your blood flowing, get your heart rate going. So that can be doing squats on the spot. That can be doing a swinging of your arms. I mean, you can YouTube and Google all these sorts of things that you can do. But so what we're doing here is actually signaling safety to our body before we move into our day. You're hydrated, your brain's turned on, you feel good, your nervous system's like, okay, we can start our day now. So another example that has to do with the consumption of caffeine, okay? And I call this the mini meal anchor. And what I mean by mini meal, it's not a meal. And so, who has time to make a big, huge breakfast first thing in the morning? Not everybody. But one thing that you can anchor to is having a little bit of food before you have coffee. Now, this is great for women in midlife because our cortisol, as you know, cortisol goes up, 30 to 45 minutes before we wake. But after we are awake, for women in menopause, our cortisol may be naturally high already because of the hormone shenanigans that's going on. And so good thing to anchor to is just think food before coffee. That could be a spoonful of yogurt. That could be, a scoop of cottage cheese. That could be some fruit. Ideally, you would want something that's a little more protein focused. I make like a little, I call them mini protein bites. They've got liquid egg whites, yogurt, vanilla protein powder, a little bit of cinnamon. And I just make these into like little mini bites. Legit, it just pops into my mouth, easy to eat. And then I can have my coffee without it making my nervous system go to war with me. So the next example is what I call the one decision made anchor. And this is a really awesome one. It's a really important one. So as a woman in midlife, and especially as a CEO, right? For me, I'm making dozens, if not hundreds of decisions every single day around my family, around meals, around my business, around my health, right? So the one decision anchor is about you making one very important decision in your morning intentionally before your day gets on top of you. And so it's not a to-do list. It's not a list of like 10,000 priorities. It's really simple. The one thing that will make today a win. I'll say that again. The one thing that will make today a win. That's your CEO decision that you need to make, first thing in the morning. That's your anchor. So what is that decision that's going to let today be a win for you? Maybe it's getting to the gym. That is often, for me, that is the one decision I make because I know that if I go train at the gym at a certain time in the morning, I know that the rest of my day will flow. I will feel energized. I'll feel amazing. I'll feel accomplished. Training is really important to your brain health, ladies, okay? And so maybe it's making a phone call. Maybe it's spending time with your spouse, or maybe you've got, an appointment that's really important to you. This one decision that will make today a win for you, think about what you want to be winning at right now as a midlife CEO. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's just focused on your health, which is really important. Maybe it is a business. Maybe you're an entrepreneur. Maybe you're a network marketer. Maybe that one decision around winning has to do with your business. Maybe it has to do with relationships. Maybe that one decision on making today a win has to do with something that is going to bring you joy. Maybe it's an activity. Maybe it's catching up with a friend. Maybe it's going to church. And you'll be amazed when you make this one decision anchor. I'll tell you what, it will define your day. And no matter what happens, when you put your head down on the pillow at night, you'll be like, yay, I won. I just want to explain to you why anchors work as opposed to solid routines or like morning routine check boxes, gotta do. So anchors work because they adapt to your energy fluctuations. And in midlife, we got energy fluctuations galore. They survive interruptions and they reduce decision fatigue. Do you know what I mean when I say that? Like, how many of you feel fatigued literally by the number of decisions that you were supposed to be making about your diet? Did I have enough protein today? Did I drink enough water? Did I work on my business for long enough today? Did I have enough sales calls today? Did I get to the gym today? Like all of these decisions. But when you anchor to these foundational things, it reduces the fatigue around having to make 1,000 different decisions. So this is why midlife leadership feels calmer when your mornings are structured around anchors. So here's the filter that I use for most habits, especially for morning routines. So I ask myself, does this habit only work under perfect conditions? Does it only work on good days? And does it make me feel bad when I don't do it? If that's the case, then it's probably not going to be one of my core leadership habits. So midlife CEO leadership habits that you hear me talking about all the time, they're stabilizing, they're supporting, and they're meant to reduce pressure on you without giving you an out, if you know what I mean. So if you're feeling right now like you're being hard on yourself because you've tried to structure a lot of habits inside a more morning routine that's not working for you, you need to take a load off and understand that it's not a lack of motivation or discipline. It's because you're in a leadership season where you need anchors, not strict rules and habits that don't work for you anymore. That's the shift. We'll see you next time.